And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Kristy Mae Wixon, UFO contactee, blade dancer, and ally to the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Kristy, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you, Kristy. And if you don't mind, let's start with when your contact with the ETs began.
Well, it began at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
When I was about 5 years old. Born and raised in New England, seeing a lot of different lights in the skies and being curious about all of it. So I would get visits from ETs at night in my room. One of them was actually the Greys for a while. And they would come and visit, but I wasn't really afraid of them. And I would continue to go outside and watch a lot of lights in the skies. And so happened to be that as I grew older, they continued to stay around me. There was always a lot of interaction, as well as I would astral project every night and go off world for different things. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of them.
Well, that's great.
So there's this particular race that I encountered when I was older, about 21, 22, and they're called the Alarians. They live in the Pleiades system, and I didn't really think we were going to have some contact, but it so happened telepathic messages came in, and I was actually with somebody at the time, and he heard them telepathically as well. And we ended up going to a wooded area up in New England. And as we approached the area, we saw something flying off to the right of the car. And it looked just like a plane. It had a red light on one side and a green light on the other side. And you could be mistaken for a plane. And I kept my eye on it. And as I watched it, it came down on a 45-degree angle and just boom, right in the forest. So we knew we were in the right place. We parked the car, we got out, we walked around and went through the woods to see what was back there. Now, it was kind of a glowing in the woods, but in New England, there's a lot of laurel thickets and laurel bushes and hard to get through underneath them. And this was it was in the fall time, so it was in November. It was kind of cold. We got back as far as we could, and we couldn't get any farther. We could see the ship, we could see the glowing, we couldn't get to it. So we decided, we're just going to go home. And this is when all this crazy good stuff happened.
Before you go there, I know you could see the ship from a distance, but can you describe what it looked like?
Yes, I can. It was a disc-shaped ship. So it had kind of a bubble on the top of it, metallic. It was metallic looking, and it had red and green lights that went around the rim of it, as well as a red and green light on each side. So again, mistaken easily in the sky for a plane, but it wasn't a plane.
It's amazing that it communicated telepathically with both you and your friend.
I'm going to tell you why that is here real shortly.
All right.
The reason that being is this is a very interesting story, and it's the truth. So sometimes the true stories can be really bizarre. And I didn't realize any of this at the time about what I'm going to tell you. So as we headed back to the house, on the outside of the house, there was gold glitter, and it was sprinkled all along the walkway. And he knew apparently what was going on, and I didn't. And I'll tell you why. So we get in the house, there's glitter that goes all the way to the bedroom. And then on the pillow, there was a metal scroll. And I was like a little taken back at the time, because I was just like, oh my gosh, we're actually, gonna have some kind of contact here. There's something going on. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he just kind of was in surprise, like a surprised mode, like, oh my gosh, this is really happening, because he knew something I didn't. And I opened the scroll and I read it. It was a metal scroll, and it said, "My dear sister, um, our my mother has told me that we're related," and it went on to explain who we were, who our father was, all this good stuff, and was signed, "Your sister's Zarina." So she was a half Alderanian from Alderon, and she had a love affair with the man that I was with at the time, many years prior, before we met, and they had a baby together, and his name was Pleasure. And so all this information came out. So I didn't care. I was just like, oh, so excited that I had a half sister from Elderon. I was like, this is just awesome. So we communicated telepathically. She had said that she wanted to connect. We called it the woods. So she wanted to connect in the woods again, because we couldn't really connect with each other then at that point in time with the ship landing the way it did. And it was just the first initial connection between me and her. So he explained a little bit more about what was going on, and he didn't realize that we were sisters as well until she brought it forward. So that was really cool. Now there was other family involved in the ship. So her travel partner was another Eldoranian named Zatar, and Zatar um, he was just a really fun. I'll explain to you what they look like, but a fun, loving guy. His brother was Alor, and then Zarina's sister was called Cameroon and Ulna. So they had sisters as well with them.
Let me recap for 1 second here, just to make sure I'm on the same page with you.
Hmm.
You went to the woods that first time with this guy. You saw
Hmm.
the ship, and then you decided to go back to your apartment or house. And that's when
Right.
you found the scroll and learned all this information.
Correct.
When you revealed it to this guy, how did he react?
He was in shock. He was in shock because him and my half sister had a relationship and a child for many years prior to her returning.
Uh,
And he didn't know she was going to contact me too. And all of us being together, it seemed like the appropriate time for the contact.
Now, how did he have a child with her? I mean, he physically met her on the ship,
He
or was
did.
this through astral
Nope.
traveling?
Nope. She physically landed in this area that we called the woods that he knew of and where we were headed when the ship landed. And they had previously had a encounter in the woods, as well as my father did, for me to be half sisters with her mother. So this particular area was a hotspot area, and it was an area that people. And I will mention the reason my dad was involved was because he was an auxiliary officer. He
Okay.
was a security guard and auxiliary officer, so he probably got a call one night for a light being in the sky and had to check it out or whatever, and went out there and had a little encounter with an Eldoranian woman.
There appears to be a lot of activity in the Connecticut area. Why do you
Hmm.
think that is?
That's a good question. I know there are certain facilities that are in that area. Um, there's underground bases and underground tunnel systems. I think the Atlantic seaboard, as well as the Pacific coast, we have a lot of activity everywhere. But I just think there's certain bases and certain areas that attract this specific, you know, the certain factions and certain species, as well as there's a lot of nuclear power plants there.
Hmm.
If you think about it, there's a lot of nuclear energy, and
Mhm.
some of the ships fly around the nuclear energy. They use some of the energy for their ships.
Have you ever gone back to the woods and met your half sister in person, physically?
I did. I did, and I met somebody else that was with her.
What did she look like?
She was about 3 to 4 feet tall. They're naked, so they don't wear any clothes. Bald head,
They're
big
humanoid?
round. She is humanoid, yeah.
Okay.
Big round eyes that are kind of slitted a little bit. They look like a cow, kind of cow eyes.
Mhm.
Um, but they have abilities. They have amazing abilities. So, for instance, when Zatar was there with me too, and when he likes to play games, and they're very childlike. So he took himself and put himself inside of a tree trunk, and when he did, the whole tree trunk lit up red. So he likes to play these games of like hide and seek. And they love rocks, I'll tell you. Any kind of shiny rocks or really nice rocks. I used to bring them rocks and gifts.
Well, they're pretty short, and
They are short.
they kind of a little bit sound like a gray, but different.
No, yeah, they kind of look like a gray, but they're not. They're not any relation to any of the grays.
Hmm.
They're their own species from a place called Alderon in the Pleiade system. And I wanted to mention, if I could as well, they travel sometimes with what we know as an interdimensional Bigfoot. But and this is the first time that I'm really putting this information out there so people know. But they're not called Bigfoots, they're called Sambrinians.
Hmm.
So there's a planet called Sambrinia that is a very cold, icy kind of planet, and it's on the way from the Pleiades to here, but it's still in the Pleiade system, and they pick them up on the way and bring them here too. So they traveled together. But I met this Sambrinian who I found out was one of the protectors as I was a child. He was one of my protectors, and his name was Elu. And Elu, the Sambrinians do protect children. So when kids are young, and if they're having a hard time in their family, or they just need somebody there to protect them, they will see these interdimensional Bigfoots standing at their bed or they're outside their house, and they get frightened, but they're actually there just to protect them and to make sure they're okay.
Now,
They are protectors of children.
are these beings the same ones that are seen in the northwest portion of the United States?
They are some of them that are seen because there are other Bigfoot tribes here on the planet that have been through the evolutionary process and that have been here from the beginning as well. So not all Bigfoot or Sambrinians are alike.
But
Only the interdimensional ones are called Sambrinians.
well, what about the ones that are here that have evolved here? Are they also interdimensional? Because humans can never capture one.
Yes, they do have abilities to cloak themselves and to transcend other realities, but some of them are more physical in the genetic makeup of their tribe, of their Bigfoot tribe, and it depends on the genetics, and it depends on the evolutionary process that their physical body took through the evolution process. So not all will disappear. Some do, some more than others. Some have a harder time cloaking themselves and or becoming interdimensional.
Why do you think they don't reveal themselves to us?
Because I really believe they are protectors and guardians, and they have a mission here, but I believe as well that they're still uncertain about humanity and how humanity would react or treat them, because a lot of humanity reacts in fear. And until they understand more, I just think they stay at a distance, like a lot of the ET races do. We're getting there. We're slowly getting there with disclosure and bringing out that there are many races and many galactic councils and federations, but a lot of humanity is still just a little not, they're just not ready yet. And I
W-
think these ET species know.
Do you think we'll be ready anytime soon?
I hope so. Yes, the answer is yes to that. I do. I think we are on the incline, and I think that's why we're all here right now together, bringing these stories forward and getting ready for disclosure. Because again, it's our choice, and it's up to us to bring this information forward. But we're also dealing with with different factions here on Earth that are trying to keep it down. So, as we all know, there's a timing. Timing is everything. And I also believe that a lot of the Galactic Federation and a lot of the off world species are ready, but they also have to observe humanity as being 100% ready as well.
Do you think humanity can ever really be ready? I mean, I think it's like
Yeah, I do.
we just have to jump into the cold into the pool and go for it.
Well, I believe that on our end, but I also think that there's a lot of damage that can be done for other souls that are not ready. So a majority or percentage of us are ready, and I would like full disclosure right now. But there are people on the face of the earth that really wouldn't know how to handle a lot of this, and their DNA wouldn't be able to handle it as well. And even interacting with these beings. So their frequencies are higher, a lot of them, and they hold a different vibrational frequency. And if your biological frequency doesn't match a lot of theirs, then even being in their presence is going to be traumatic, or it's
Yeah.
going to be harder for you to even be off world. If you were to go off world, you wouldn't be able to if your frequency wasn't matching a higher vibration.
Are there ETs living among us that we don't even know that they're here?
Yeah, there are. There are many here. Many have been here since the beginning of time. A lot of the draconian species and reptilian species, some of the carrion, the avian species, and I'm gonna tell you that a lot of the Lyran species are here as well right now.
Are the Lyrans the ones that are cat-like?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are very cat-like. The Lyrans originally came from another universe, and they came through the Lyra Vega Stargate, called Vega Prime. So that is actually where a planet that I used to reside on was called Malaqua, and that resided in Vega Prime. It's also part of the Ashkira system, and the Ashkira system, or what they called the man system. There were many feline races out there. We know the Irma from Avian, but I'm not an Irma. I'm what you call a Katai. So the Katai are a hybrid species that were created from the Ta'al and the La'ani races, out on a planet called Casta in the Ashkira system.
You are part Alderanian, but then you're also saying that you're part Lyran.
No, no, I am Lyran. I am Lyran human. I have the human side of my sister has human and Alderanian. We just share the same father, so we share the same human father.
How are those ships able to travel such long distances and get here?
There's different ways. They can take the old way of traveling, which takes actually about 5 Earth moons to get one direction. And there's also wormholes, and there's space and time is not linear, so it can actually, you can bend it. And in what they call the time fabric continuum, there are layers of dimensional bands of what we call time scores, and those time scores overlay and interlock with each other. And the way we use like a door via a stargate, via a portal, or a vortex, depending on what the frequency is and how big it is and what dimensional frequency it's going to be traveling into, so that it's not imploded or exploded, because the energy is concentrated. It's a lot of it's plasma.
Has an ET that lives here ever came up to you privately and interacted with you?
You mean human hybrid?
I mean, full 100% ET.
I've had visitations at outside and interacted with different species.
How are they going unnoticed?
They're actually, how do I say this? They're interdimensional or or multidimensional, so they can phase in and phase out. They're not really going 100% unnoticed. People do notice them if you're on that frequency, or if you're, yeah, if you're holding that an energy frequency, or you're aware of it, or you're calling them, or you're asking for them, you're going to see them, you're going to have interactions with them. So it's not just, oh, here they are. They are there, but most people aren't aware of their being there.
Are there some races that are humanoid and look just like us?
Of course. There are a lot of the Pleiadian races look like us. Uh, some of the felines look like us because the felines had the first genetic DNA with human and what we call human angelic DNA. Um, there's Nordic whites that have a tendency to look like us. There are quite a few races that are bipedal and hominoid races that look human. Again, some of these races can shape shift and they can phase. So one minute they look like human, and the next minute you're going to see, their eyes shifting, or their face shifting or pixelating, and it's just their cloaking device.
Have you ever seen a being with their eyes shift into reptilian eyes?
I have. I have seen that, but I will tell you another thing that I want to mention as well. Dragons shift their eyes the same way. And so people confuse the two. And they are a draconian species, but there are a lot of really good dragons out there. I will mention that, that are working for humanity at this time. So just because you see an eye sliver, or you see something that is in that form, it's not always reptilian. And there are also good reptilians as well, good draconians and good reptilians. But yes, I have seen them.
In the beginning, I said that you are an ally to the Galactic Federation.
Correct.
Have
Um,
Do they have any urgent message for humanity?
yes, at the moment, through my father, who is Admiral Macaw of the Holy House of Lyra, we are working with the Syrian High Council, the Andromeda High Council, the Pleiadian Council, which is the Pleiadian Council of Light, I believe they call themselves. Um, and we're actually bringing forth what they call star delegations at this time. So intergalactic negotiations to establish peace here in this universe. I will say it's still under delegation. There have been many galactic meetings happening that are important for this, and this is going to change how things affect everybody here on Earth. We're trying to get the trade routes cleaned up from a lot of the bad behavior going on out there, as well as opening Stargate routes for space travel, off-world space travel eventually. But that is going to take some time. But these delegations and negotiations that are going on amongst the Galactic Federation of Worlds and the higher councils will bring a new future for people. So the warring needs to stop. The warring has been going on for millions of years, as we know, from the Orion Wars all the way down, and it hasn't stopped. And now this is a new time for Earth. And so the people here deserve that, and humanity needs it. So that's what's going on. A lot of star delegations and negotiations within the councils.
Many people talk about the Ascension.
Hmm.
Are you aware of it? And if so, are the ETs assisting with it?
Yeah, so we are all part of the Ascension because what we're trying to do is raise our vibration, raise others' vibrations by bringing this knowledge forth and showing them that there is a better way to exist here, and not to have, war and separation. I will say that a lot of it has to do with balancing the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine. The divine feminine has not been allowed to reign here because the masculine energy that was not divine has been ruling over this planet for thousands of years. So bringing in a balance of the divine masculine and feminine energies will bring the balance and the energy that Christ energy in to anchor so that people can raise their original Christic DNA before it was reversed and mutated, hold that frequency, hold that codes, and then that will help with the ascension process.
Is there anything that we should do to get prepared for it?
Do the work that we are doing. Yes. I would say stay connected with your star families, be open to telecommunications with them. Know that we are all brothers and sisters of Earth and off-world. We are all starting to try to work together on galactic awareness and galactic information. That it's not just here on Earth. That it goes deep into the politics that are out in space, which there's a lot of. It's not been an easy road, but this is humanity's time, and this is humanity's time to ascend. And we all need to graduate. So Earth needs to graduate as well. And through the awareness process of being on these podcasts with people like yourself and interacting with people and getting the information that we're seeking, learning how to incorporate that into our lives. And I will say that it's all about love. It's all about selfless love and service to humanity and service to others, not about service to self. So that is the separation. We want to be able to serve other people at this time, and by serving each other, we serve ourselves as a collective.
If somebody wants to make contact, how would they do that?
First of all, they'd have to know their self-worth, that they're loved and they are loved, and they have to project and manifest that love and that divine connection from their higher self to a being or a higher frequency being that they want to connect to. So if you're on the lower dimensional frequency bands and you're trying to reach something that's higher, it's not going to work. So you really need to center yourself, get within yourself, know that you love yourself, and then reach that love out to some of these higher frequencies. And the ETs and the species that are in those frequencies will connect with you. If you don't, then you're going to get some of the lower frequency ETs that you're not really going to want to, deal with.
Do you think CE5 events are good?
It just depends. I think it just depends on the person. They can be, but again, it's a personal journey. And I think whatever your personal journey is really will reflect on that.
How many races of ETs do you think are out there?
There's millions. There's
What
millions, thousands of them.
in our local region of space?
So in our universe,
Mm-hmm.
there's thousands of races. Many, many, many.
Some people believe that Earth is a prison planet controlled by ETs. What is your take on that?
Okay. Earth is somewhat a prison planet. Yes, it is. And I will explain that to you. There are 22 seed creators. There were originally 24, but now 22 that govern this universe because it is a beta universe, which means it's still under construction. So it's still under a genetic experiment. And that's, again, what we're trying to kind of get out of. So there is a place that I have been physically, it's called the Hall of Records, and it exists above the earth, and it is governed by a mantis type race called the Kuite or the Kute. And they have they have a book, and it's called the Book of Life, and it has to do with the governing of this particular universe, what souls can come in through there and come here, certain lessons that need to be taught to these specific souls. Not all souls come through the Hall of Records. So some come off ships, some are walk-ins, everybody has a different contract depending on their soul's contract, their soul's reason and purpose for being here. Now, Coming in through the Hall of Records as well, that's part of the reincarnation recycling center and what they call the soul trap. These souls become reincarnated because there is actually an area above the earth which people think is a bubble, and some people think that it's a flat earth with a bubble. Some people think there's an earth with no bubble, but there is actually an area that is covered with this bubbly area, and it's also got a soul net. So as these souls come down and descend through the hollow records, they come down through this soul net and through this bubble, and that area is where the ETs get your energy signature on who's coming in and who's going out. So it's the in and out part of the prison planet. And we are a prison planet to a degree because our souls keep getting caught in this cycle unless we can ascend out of it or know how to get out of it.
Do you know how to get out?
I don't know for sure 100%. I've heard things. There's ways to ascend out of here. I've also heard that when your body dies and your soul leaves your body, that your soul has to be on a 45-degree, your body has to be on a 45-degree angle to shoot it out through a certain direction through the soul net. I'm not sure if that's 100% true or not. Again, we have free will to a certain degree here, so we can choose not to go towards the light or towards the soul trap that they're trying to drag us into. And we should know ourselves, which again is part of the ascension process, knowing yourself, who you are, what you are, why you are, what your intentions are prior to leaving here so you don't get trapped back into that soul trap again. Knowing that there's other worlds out there and that you have the opportunity to break those contracts or to leave and go somewhere else if you do not want to come back to Earth.
Do you think that starseeds and other hybrids are accidentally getting stuck here?
I do. I think partially we've come here for a mission, so a lot of this was our own doing, our own agreement, our own contracts to come here to help humanity and to help with this ascension process and to help the earth ascend. But then again, if we don't do the work and know all this information, we can easily get caught within this trapping device. So again, that's part of the awareness that people and humanity need to be aware of, that we can get trapped and we continue to keep coming back cycle after cycle.
Do you know who set up the soul trap?
I'm not 100% sure, but I do have inclination that some of these seed creator beings that are involved in this work for another universe, and they have contracts with that universe to govern this one.
Earlier, you were talking about the Hall of Records. Is that the same place which many people refer to as the Akashic Records?
Okay, there are many Akashic records throughout space, but because each planet has its own record system, and each galaxy and universe has its own record system. So there are many of them. Now, the Hall of Records is just one of them, and it's actually one of them that governs, I guess, specific souls that come through that sign that book, the Book of Life. So it's just a contract. It's just a specific area, kind of like Grand Central Station, if you will, for in between worlds and in between lifetimes.
Have they revealed to you what's going to be going on with the Earth in the near future?
Not as of yet. A lot of it depends on the negotiations that are being delegated right now off world and within the Starseed councils and the Galactic councils. So they're still working on, I guess, removing a lot of the negativity here and a lot of the negative ET species in the underground tunnels and bases, and that has been a project that they've been working on for quite a while.
Are there a lot of reptilians underground?
There are many different bases and many different tunnel systems, underground facilities. Again, not all of them are bad species, but the majority of the ones that are bad are being asked to leave because new laws are being governed and new laws are being set forth for the planet.
I've heard that there are a whole bunch of ETs underground, basically waiting to repopulate the Earth. Is there any truth to that?
There is a place called the Inner Earth Sanctum, or people know as Argartha, and a lot of these species reside down in that area. Their frequencies are a lot different, like I said, from people that are living on the surface. There's different species from Nordics to Pleiadians to hybrids to reptilians hybrids to there's even a species that we call the lizzies that are more of a they look like our alligator type hybrid draconian race, and they are a lesser, and they are not a bad species at all. They got trapped here when one of their stargates um, collapsed and they couldn't get back home, and so they went underground to survive. So there are a lot of different species that live underground. There's also a lot of reptilian bases that are under the water out in our oceans. Some are positive and some are not so positive.
Do you think there's an ET war going on outside of the planet over Earth?
Mo- Most definitely. There's been warring going on for thousands of years, and species are still warring with each other. And that's another reason why these negotiations are being set in place and set in order.
Sometimes my videos appeal to a wide audience. And for
Mhm.
somebody tuning in for the first time to a video like this, they may be thinking, I don't know if I believe all this stuff. How would you let them know that all this stuff is real?
Oh, that's a good question. It's an inner truth that really people have in them because there's encounters that people have had and they're just not really sure about them. I don't expect everybody to believe everything, but I think a majority of humanity has encountered specific things in their lifetime that not everybody believed. And I just think they have to look within themselves and look into their higher self, and the answers will come to them for their individual truth. But I think all this information is good to put out there for everybody so that they can find what resonates with them, and then they can look for their inner truth and how it will help, better their life.
I've stated during my podcast quite a few times that I wish I could get a real ET to be my guest. Not a hybrid, but like 100% real ET. Do you think
Mhm.
that would ever or could ever be possible?
It's definitely possible. Again, there still has to be more work going on before a lot of the full blown ETs just come out and reveal themselves. So I think we're in the process of bringing that to order, but I wish you the best. I hope you get a full blown ET on your show because I would like to ask him some questions too.
Do you think it's possible that one has already been a guest, but just not letting us know that it's an ET?
That's possible. It's possible. Anything is possible here on Earth.
Well, I'm going to change gears with you. In the beginning, I
Okay.
also said you're a blade dancer. Can you
I
tell us
am.
about that?
Yeah, I'm a Lyran human hybrid. So I was born on a planet called Malaqua, thousands of years ago. And I taught blade dancing at a place called the Alabaster Temple and Living Library. So what blade dancing is it is a martial art type of dance with weaponry, and our weapons are enchanted. So we have a lot of elemental enchantments on them. We use these weapons to protect and to bring justice to an order to the universe. So more like a guardian of the galaxy type art. Um, in the living library, there is also a lot of information that is downloaded into our library. So a lot of these moves and martial art moves were also to protect our planet, to protect our temple, and to protect our library from all this information getting in the wrong hands, which a lot of it did during the Orion Wars.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Yes, I'm definitely open to communicating with people, interacting, and answering many questions that they have. They can reach me at my website, eternallystarborn.com, or they can email me at eternallystarborn2024@gmail.com.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
The YouTube called Eternally Starborn.
Okay. What kind of videos are you posting there?
A lot of ET ET related videos for information.
Now, you have a book that's going to be coming out this spring. What's the title of it?
Eternally Starborn.
Oh, all
It's
right.
called Eternally Starborn, and it's going to be a great book that talks about not only the Orion Wars, a lot of galactic history, but also how our multiverse was created.
Can you give us a little bit of information about the Orion Wars?
Yeah, it was a time when the Draconian Empire and some of the Chiakar reptilians decided that they were going to conquer a lot of planets, and they did. And as they decided to take over a lot of planets, a lot of planets were destroyed. A lot of people fled for their lives. The Lyrans as well fought in the Orion Wars, but they lost a lot of homes, and they fled to other planets and safe areas, including the Pleiades, and some of us went to safer refuge areas out there.
What can you briefly tell us about how the multiverse was created?
Well, there's actually many multiverses. So within these time fabric continuum bands of frequency, light, color, sound, all of it stems from an area that I'm well aware of that's called the void. I remember the void. I remember being part of the void and being a part of the consciousness of the sea of the void. And so out of this void came structure. And through the structure, it was part of an etheric field and a plasma field. And within these fields of development came a lot of the physical form, including layers of consciousness, layers of frequency, dimensional frequency bands, time score bands, meaning parallel timelines. Everything was starting to layer itself into a reality form. And that all happened through color, light, sound, frequency, and vibration.
When you met up with your half sister, did she ever take you inside of a ship?
No, I never got a chance to go in there. We actually met in the woods and it was nighttime. She did ask me to come back to see Alderon with her. And this was in 1993. So I thought about it, but I really didn't want to go because I knew I had a mission here on Earth to do, and I didn't want to just up and leave. She did talk a little bit about Alderaan, so I can explain a little bit about it. First of all, there is a capital city on Alderaan, and the capital is called Boulder Dash. There is a mountain of where all that glitter, which we call glitter, but it's not really glitter. It's a metal, like a gold metal, and it's called Glitter Mutt Mountain. So they have two suns there as well. And I would have loved to have gone back there and really enjoyed it. But again, I would have turned up missing here and nobody would have known where I was. I wasn't ready to leave the earth. I really do love the earth so much. And I know my mission is here with the earth that I just didn't want to leave at that time.
Before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yeah, love each other. Love each other and take care of each other because we are the future and we are what we're here to do. Humanity is needing each other, everyone to connect and to support each other and it's all about love. It's what it's all about right now. Like I said, the wars are stopping, the wars are ending, and for us to move into a positive timeline and a positive new direction, we have to bring that love energy with us. So I wish everybody tons of love, and I want you to support each other in that manner.
Kristy, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.